What a privilege to be in this room with such a great organization and all of your organizations as well. Sam, that was awesome, man. I feel like I just got an MBA in sales. Kind of started shaking like I'm back in school, graduate school a little bit. Wow, wasn't that great information? Thanks, Sam. That was amazing. Mr. Miller, it's so nice to meet you today. He was over there telling me how this all came together kind of on a razor's edge one day with a thought in San Francisco in a small room just thinking about the future and how things could change. I want to talk with you a little bit today just about performance. And, you're probably wondering, why is a sports psychologist in a room like this? First of all, that movie is really about imparting game day wisdom. And that's what we do as leaders in sales, as leaders of people. We impart game day wisdom. We help people understand what it means to be ready on game day. When I was a kid, there was a question that drove me as I grew up in Texas playing a lot of sports. And the question was this: why don't the best players always win? Why don't the kids with the most talent, with the most potential win? And that question drove me in life to find the answer, because I knew on game day, the day when it all, the score mattered, and when the wins and losses really came alive and reality hit you in the face, game day is the day we all wanted to perform well. And I wanted to make sure that on game day, my talent, my potential came out on game day. And what we found is potential is just not enough. Isn't that interesting? You can practice and you can practice and you can prepare and you can prepare, but game day comes with intensity. Game day is a cauldron of pressure. Game day comes with all the interferences that happen. Now, the reason I love doing these kind of events is because you all are very different from athletes in this sense. This information I'm going to share with you today is more relevant to you, because when I worked with the Spurs, they might have 3 games in a week. In baseball, they might have 4 or 5. In football, they have 1. In golf, they have 4 days. But what's game day for you guys? It's every day, isn't it? Game day is every day that you step your foot in the office or out wherever you are. Game day is all the time. And this information is, if it's relevant for athletes, it's got to be relevant for you all. Now, let me tell you where sports psychology came to me in the beginning. There wasn't even a field called sports psychology back when I was 12 years old. I was on my dad's little league team. Now, you got to understand something about my dad. He was a former Marine. He was our coach. And at the age of 19, a buck sergeant down in 29 Palms changed his life forever, he says, and taught him how to be great. In fact, he was in sales in his life and did a really good job. But he figured, since at the age of 19 his life was changed so dramatically, that he would just go ahead and start with us the day we were born. He had saved us 19 years of misery. So he was training me to be a Marine since I was a kid. So I'm a 12-year-old Marine, actually, at this moment. So we go all the way to state championships with my dad as the coach. Now, the reason we went there was because of one kid on our team. It didn't have to do with the rest of us. It had one kid. His name was Ray. Ray was our pitcher. At the age of 12, Ray was about 5'11", weighed about 175, had a nice little goatee going. The guy, he could throw that ball faster than any kid I'd ever seen, and he was pretty accurate, too. He won the pitch, bat, and throw contest in Houston, Texas that year out of about 30,000 kids that tried out. He was our man. Now, we also didn't have that 10-inning rule back then when you could only throw 10 innings of pitches a week or whatever. That boy threw all the pitches we pitched all year long. My dad was smart enough not to allow us to have to take batting practice against him. Only the 4 poor fools on the other team had to play against Ray. So we buzzsawed right through all these teams, went to Monahans, Texas, to the state playoffs. Why they headed out in that middle of nowhere desert place in West Texas, I don't know, but that's where we were. And we take the field. And Ray's doing his intimidating act. He's throwing that ball in there. We got that little catcher back there. Oh, every time it hit his glove, he'd go, oh, and he'd throw it back, That pitch would come in, oh, and he would throw it back, and the eyes on the other team, not this big. Ray was doing a great job of intimidating. And then it happened. Our team took the dugout. The other team comes out to warm up. Sports psychology comes to me like a locomotive. I'd never heard of the field. It wasn't even an issue, in the area of education at that point. But the guy that I thought was their coach lumbered up onto the mound for them. He was 6 foot, probably weighed about 205, had a nice full beard going. But the big deal was his first pitch came in. You could hardly see it. It was going so fast. But it went over the catcher, over the umpire, and stuck in the chain link fence. Now, you got to be throwing it pretty hard to get the stick in the chain link fence. That's one of the variables. But the other variable is one I was worried about, and that was he was what? He was wild. Now, that's not of interest if you're about to go up to bat against the guy that's throwing from 40 feet BBs at you, you know? And so the first two guys strike out, not because the guy threw a strike, because they wanted out of there. They got out of the way. Now, all about 4'10" of me comes up as the third batter. My strike zone's about this big. I'm the littlest kid on the team. I'm trying to be a little Marine, brave and courageous and everything, and it's David against Goliath. I've got a great batting average. My dad's proud of me, you know, everything's great. My mom's up there. Go get him, David and Goliath, you know. I get up in there, and I'm looking at this guy, and all of a sudden, it all happens. I can't even explain it, but you probably understand this. As that guy raised his leg to throw the pitch, my left leg, unbeknownst to the rest of me, removed itself from the batter's box. And it took the rest of me with it. Now I'm having a heated conversation with my leg. Now, this is sports psychology coming at you. Have you ever talked to your leg before? I'm saying, you got to stay in there. Don't embarrass me like that. Well, the umpire calls timeout, looks at me and says, son, you okay? Oh, yes, sir, I'm fine. Just need to take a breath over here. You know, and I'm screaming at my leg at this point. He says, now, you got to keep your foot in there to play this game. Yes, sir, I understand that. I get right back in there. I'm looking, okay, you Marine, come on, hang in there. Leg, stay. That guy raised his leg to throw the pitch. Out goes my leg again. The umpire calls timeout, looks at me and says, son, you do that again, I'm going to have to call you out. Yes, sir, I understand that. I am outraged at my leg at this point. It's removing itself without the rest of me having anything to do with it. Of course, it's the closest thing to the pitcher, and it's probably the wisest part of my body at this point. So now my dad, the Marine, has moved to the on-deck circle. As close to legally possible as he can get to his son in this game at this point, trying to give me all kind of motivational signs, and I'm not taking any of them. And so I get back in there, and I'm screaming at my leg, and I'm saying, stay in there, don't embarrass me. The guy raised his leg, throw the pitch, and you could have put 2,000 pounds of cement on that leg. Out it goes again. My dad calls timeout before the umpire can call me out. Here it comes. You can see it, a motivational speech from a Marine Corps dad to son, moving rapidly towards me like a locomotive on a railroad track. Hey, my dad comes up to him, and he puts his arm around me, squeezes me real tight just to remind me that he is a Marine. Then he says, son, I said, yes, sir. He says, you know I'm proud of you. Started out really good. Yes, sir. Thank you, Dad. Appreciate that. Son, I said, now, can you keep your foot in that batter's box, son? Or do I need to put somebody else in there for you? My dad thought he was giving me a motivational speech. But I heard an option. And I took it. I left my dad with his arm around nothing as I scampered right into that Little League dugout where I never came out again. We got beat 14-2. The reason we got 2 runs is the guy kept hitting our guys and walking them around. The other guys were bailing out. But that day something happened. You know, I was 12. I was a good athlete. I'd never had this sort of game day interference quite like that before in my life. But something got between me and my performance and our team's performance that day. Intimidation, fear, maybe I would even call it intelligence. Get the heck out of there, you know. But something happened that day. You know, all my stats were good. I was a good little player. I was a budding Marine. You know, my dad was a good coach. We had a great team. Ray was a great pitcher, but it didn't matter in that situation. Something else came in and intervened. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. Performance equals, here's a good formula for you. Performance equals potential. We wish it stopped right there. You know, every day at the end of the day, we look in the mirror and go, man, today I got everything out of my, potential and performance. They equal each other. That was great. But some days we know that score is not a real reflection of how well I do or how well our sales group does. And so there's another variable. It's this. Performance equals potential minus interference. It's a real simple, uncomplicated formula, but it's a truth in life. Interference is that intervening variable that undermines potential. It's the thing that takes our feet out from under us, or those people, even the best on our sales forces, it takes their feet out from under them. It's because of this variable right here and not being prepared for it is that oftentimes we fail to live up to our fullest potential. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about that. And the reason is this. As I've worked with athletes for about 30 years now, it's really important for me to do 2 things with these athletes. Now, I used to just do one of them. I'd say, where is it you want to go? What is it, what's the proverbial trophy you want to hold one day? We saw something really cool this year in the PGA Tour Championship. 2 unknowns, relatively unknowns. Mahan and Haas were playing for $10 million. That was the coolest thing. You know, and the first guy, the last hole was a par 3, you know, where the playoff started. One guy hits it in the stands. I mean, it's up in the bleachers, at least 10 rows up. The other guy hits it in the bunker with about an 8-foot lip on it. I mean, these guys are rattled. They're paying for $10 million. That's the coolest thing. We love that as spectators. What about those two guys, you know? You've got to want the ball in your hand. So here's two things I ask people. Number one, what's that trophy you want to hold? Well, I want to be, you know, I want to be the tour champion. You know, I want to be the one that has that $10 million someday. You know, I want to know that if I worked with Bill Haas or Hunter Mahan. I would want to know that the first day that I work with them. I want to know where it is you want to go. I want to know what it is you want to do. And that's a great question for us to ask those people that work under us. How can our organization help you get there? That's a cool question. Instead of, here's our organizational goal, and we want to know how you're going to help us get there. You know, if you really want to motivate someone, is how can this setting that we're putting under you help you get where you want to go in life? Now you'll have some people that'll go through the wall for you. I want them to know. I want to know, what is it you want to hold? What's that trophy? Name it. Describe it. Taste it. Touch it. Breathe it. But that's where it used to stop. But there's one question that's better than that. And it's the follow-up question. I want to ask them this question. You'll have to go with me in your mind a little bit. But I want to ask this. What does it look like 10 minutes before the trophy celebration? I want you to describe that picture. For Bill Haas, he was in the lake, ball half submerged, because he had so much adrenaline. He hit over the green, down into the water. He's standing in the water with a half-submerged ball. The other guy's about 20 feet from the hole. It looks like it's all over. And the guy hits it 1 foot from the hole. Boom! Greatest shot this year on the PGA Tour. At the biggest moment in time. I want to know what it looks like 10 minutes before the trophy celebration, because that is reality. We all have to go through that 10 minutes before the trophy celebration before we can ever hold a trophy. And I don't know. You'll have to be creative in your organization. What does that mean, 10 minutes before the trophy celebration? I'm working with a young player on the nationwide tour this year. He served our country in the Navy. He played for the Naval Academy. He played golf. And he went off and he served our country for 5 years. And now he's back trying to compete on the PGA Tour. He's on the nationwide tour, which is the second-tier tour. And at the end of the year, they take 25 guys off the nationwide tour, and they give them a PGA card the next year where they get to play on the big tour. And the last tournament of the year is the tournament championship, and they take the top 50 guys and they put them in there, and all of the ordering can change according to how people end up. And my guy, going into the tour championship, nationwide tour, where the top 25 get a card, he's number 25. Going into the final tournament, this was last week, a week and a half ago. And so I'm talking to him, and he sends me an email. He goes, this is the 10 minutes before the trophy celebration, isn't it? And he's talking about all 4 days, not just those last 10 minutes, which were going to be breathtaking as well. If he doesn't finish great in this tournament, he's going to lose. He could finish 26 and not have anything, go back to the nationwide tour. He's 30th after the first day, so he's going to miss it by 1 or 2. And then he moves down to 26, and then he moves in, finally finishes 14th, and makes it by about $2,000. He knows what it means now. I talked to him about a month ago, about 10 minutes before the trophy celebration. And that was his comment afterwards. He said, I was ready for the 10 minutes before the trophy celebration. You've got to define that for those that work under you, for yourself. You've got to understand what that means, because that's the moment that it all takes place. We have to walk through those 10 minutes before we'll ever hold a trophy if we want to do something great and high with our life and with our occupation. The question is, what's the greatest predictor of success in the face of interference? What's the greatest predictor of success in the 10 minutes before the trophy celebration? And let me share some ideas with you today. This isn't astrophysics, and it's not going to be real detailed, but this is life. This is performance. This is performance information at its best at the gut level, and this is true. And it's like, well, that's not very complicated. And sometimes the least complicated things are the most difficult steps to take and choices to make in the heat of competition.